Matthew Stafford both facing off against their former teams. And it's a rematch from a thriller in the playoffs from last season. The Lions beat the Rams by 1 point to win their first playoff game since 1991. Jared Goff completed 81% of his passes, the highest rate in Lions playoff history. Then there was Matthew Stafford. He returns to Detroit for just the second time since the Lions traded into LA back in 2021. The first coming in last year's playoffs, as I just mentioned. Stafford is Detroit's all-time leading passer with over 45,000 yards. The Lions held a 17-point lead in the NFC Championship game, but ultimately they fell to the Niners. Detroit enters this season tied for the third shortest odds to win its first Super Bowl in franchise history. Speaking of, here's Dan Campbell. It's new on SportsCenter.
Well, it's funny because I just told the team let's not talk about it anymore. Yeah. Well, no, and it's just this. Of course we do. Who doesn't, right? And yes, we do. But we're to the point now where that doesn't even matter anymore. Like, what does that do? It does nothing. Now it's about the steps to get to there. And the steps are you better win your division because you get a home game. So that's so far down the road now. So now it's about setting yourself up for that. And how do you do that? Well, it's like we said, it starts with game one, NFC opponent, really good opponent.
All right, so Dan Campbell doesn't want to get ahead of it, but we will here on SportsCenter as we're back with Sam Acho. And obviously we just heard from the head coach. And the simple question is, what is it going to take for the Detroit Lions to get over the hump? They made it all the way to the NFC Championship game last year. What do you think, Sam?
It's going to take big-time players making big-time plays in big-time games. That's what we saw from San Francisco in the second half of that NFC Championship, but we didn't see from Detroit in the second half. There are a few crucial drops in that second half that were costly to this team. You see one of them right there. And, of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the most reliable receivers in the league, but plays that he usually makes didn't make. Josh Reynolds had a couple drops in that game as well. Where on the other side, you saw San Francisco making plays that were huge, big-time plays. Mind you, this Lions team was up big at halftime, and then when the second half came, their big-time players didn't make big-time plays. And so big-time players must make big-time plays in crucial moments.
You can see it on.
Okay, I actually disagree with that. I mean, listen, of course you need to make big-time plays in big-time games, but I think the Lions are great enough of a team and stacked enough of a team that they don't have to rely on these big-time plays in big-time moments. Yeah, they have to get the job done, and they're going to have big-time plays, right? So this whole big-time plays, I'm going to say it now a million times, but to me, that's kind of painting the picture that the Lions will be this more one-dimensional where it's just going to be these big splash plays. And I don't think that needs to be the case. And in fact, the 49ers, the way how they were able to consistently win is not only through the big time plays, but also by cutting you up with a million paper cuts, right? And that is very much what the Lions will be able to do. It doesn't have to constantly be this all in 100% pedal to the floor. I just don't believe that. I think they are good enough where they will be able to pick you apart quite strategically, quite at sometimes conservatively even, as well as aggressively. It'll really be this kind of more dynamic approach. Some teams absolutely just have to go 100%, let's go, which reminds me of the Eagles of 22. Or the Chiefs I'm going to butcher the year, the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill, I'll just say. Right? Like that was so much more of like, we are relying on, especially because they were down by a lot plenty of times. They had to keep coming from behind. They needed these big time plays consistently. I think if the Lions play their cards right and come with the appropriate game plan, they won't need all these big time plays. They backed themselves in a corner. I'm really done talking about last season. Like I've reached my limits, but since they brought it up, the Lions put themselves in that corner where they now needed to have big time plays. If they just kept playing their game of football and were a little bit smarter and didn't make a couple mistakes, they wouldn't have needed to rely on some big time plays in big time moments. Those moments would have just not been needed. And I think that's what the Lions need to do. I think the Lions mentality needs to be, if we handle our business, if we do what needs to be done consistently, we won't need to go for it all the time on fourth down. We won't need to be incredibly aggressive just to win games. We can be aggressive when it's time just to eat the heart out of the other team or to shock another team, but it's not going to be the reason why we win. It may be the reason why we dominate, but it won't be the reason why we win. And to me, that is a key difference maker. So I personally would love to see the Lions' identity continue to evolve. Continue to evolve to a team that knows deep down that they belong, rather than constantly trying to show everyone that they're deserving of a ticket to the show. Because I think the Lions can be the show. I think they will absolutely be a top team in the NFL. And I think it comes with playing great fundamental football. So I reject the idea that this will all come down to big time players making big time plays in big time games. I just think, like, again, of course those moments are going to happen, undeniable, especially maybe come time deep into the playoffs, say an NFC Championship game or a Super Bowl. But like I keep saying, I just think if the Lions play their cards right, if they come with the right game plans, they shouldn't have to rely for these big plays and big moments. I think they should be able to control the game more often than not. And oftentimes, when you kind of lose control of a game, that's when you're relying on a big time play, in a big time moment, in a big time game. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? What do you think the Lions will actually look like? How do you think they'll actually win their games this season? Will they be more reliant on these big plays, a lot of aggression, or do you think their identity will evolve a little bit more than it was last season? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.